All right, so we are live.
Yes, we
We're gonna
are.
check our broadcasting areas. Welcome, you guys. This is our infamous Sunday broadcast. This is part two. We are following up, if you guys don't already know. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We are also simultaneously broadcasting on Joy's YouTube and Facebook. So, welcome everybody. Hopefully, for those who are new, this will be a fun and interesting topic, but I will share who I am. I'm Ali of Where's Ali, which is my YouTube channel. And my channel is about my travel walk currently as a 50-year-old solo nomad and Black woman, traipsing this globe and attempting to build life like lives, nomadic circles along my journey and showing people how to do that and do it in a budget friendly kind of way. And today we're talking about something that kind of coincides with this. Both Joy and I, and she'll share who she is in a second. Both Joy and I are doing this new thing, and living a non-conventional life. And so today's topic is part two to beliefs, things that you could be doing, things that you could believe, or rules and things like that that could be holding you back, right? And so part two is, things that you may not even really notice that you're doing or that you believe that are holding you back. And if your dream is to live a life like we're living, nomadic life, or just picking up and leaving and moving to another space or place or something like that, sometimes these beliefs are big culprits in our lives, and we just want to help y'all identify them. So that's why we're here with a part two, because last week's was a fantastic conversation. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper today. So Joy is my guest today, but I guess we're like simultaneously each other's guest
I think so.
since we're both broadcasting. So Joy,
Yes.
introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Ali. My name is Joy. And where am I? I'll start with that. I am currently in Mexico. As Ali said, we are trying to live this unconventional lifestyle. I am a digital nomad. And who am I? So many things, so many titles. But I am living. That's what I can say. I am living the play, the work part, the everything part. Soul Kitchen Lifestyle is a lifestyle brand about just living human existence. What does it look like? The things that we're doing. So I share a lot of my travel stuff, a lot of the things that I have learned along the way, little nuggets of wisdom, funny stories, people that I've met, but also just living a life of intention and choosing to live intentionally, whatever that looks like, and going on kind of this quest of finding what that looks like for us. So that's what I do when I'm living and playing. I am also a coach and consultant as a professional as well. And that's not what this is all about, but that will weave into it because that is part of what I do.
Yes.
So welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. We love this topic, y'all. This topic, we love it. And I can't wait to even continue the series, Ollie. Who knows? Just keep
Yes.
the party going.
Listen, and so y'all, if you guys are new to the topic and didn't catch last week's, you can find that on my YouTube, Where's Ali? Um, and that we started the conversation and almost ended up on like one area, which was the belief that you got to work harder. Like that was one of the things that we listed, and that turned into like a 2 hour conversation, branching off into how that translates in our lives. And so today, though, because we had a whole list that we ain't make it through, so I thought it would be good to circle back around and really list out some of the things that the other things that happen or traditional things, thoughts, beliefs, rules, whatever that present themselves in our lives every day. Things that, we possibly grew up with. If if you believe that if you eat too many watermelon seeds, you're going to grow trees out your ears. Like, that's what we was told back in the day. I eat watermelon seeds. I used to get them when I was in Thailand. They're fantastic. They don't, you're not going to grow no water. Anyway, that's kind of like low key silly. So these are these are like real things that literally could change your life. Although you might, stop eating fruit if you believe that. Anyway, so I think that's what we wanted to jump in on today. And I've got quite a list, but Joy, I want to hear some of your good stuff, some of the rules and things, because your life has been, it's quite a bit different from, mine in terms of, your upbringing, so to speak. Well, actually, probably not from the religious standpoint, but just your walk, where you're from, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm interested to hear what's on your list to kick us off.
Uh, I have a few things on here, but I love to show up in threes, honey. So number one for what's on my list is being afraid to question your beliefs and your thoughts and where they come from, right? That's the big one because if you're someone that has been told, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us have heard this, there's only one way of doing it, and then just go ahead and do it, and you can't veer off of anything else, or else if it's really bad, you're going to feel like a catastrophe is going to happen. It really does carry that trauma in your body if that's something that you experience. So I think number one for me is that the fear of challenging your beliefs and doing it anyway. So I'm going to do this in like a little what it is and doing it anyway, right? Because all these beliefs that we have, they have affected us. So asking yourself, why has it affected me?
Mm.
And the caveat to that is not asking yourself how it's affected you, right? And
Yeah.
just doing things from default and thinking, I don't know, I just do it because I do it. Something that you probably heard, like the watermelon seeds, right? You probably heard that thing a long time ago and it stuck with you. And in your mind, especially if these are things that you've heard since you were younger, in your mind that just sticks as truth. So not asking yourself, where does this belief come from? Where did I hear it first? How is it affecting my life? Do I resonate with it anymore? Because a
Right.
lot of the stuff, right? A lot of the stuff, if you don't resonate with it anymore, that is okay. We're evolving beings. We're supposed to learn and grow and change. That's the good thing. But I think because our beliefs really we attach identity to our beliefs. If I believe something, it becomes my identity. It becomes me and I become it. And if I'm stepping away from it, then who am I
Yeah.
without these beliefs, right? But it's feeling the fear of looking at these beliefs, feeling the fear and saying, is there any other way? Right? Is there any other way other than me questioning it? And whatever question comes, whatever answer comes, being okay with it and saying, okay, well, maybe I used to believe that, but I don't believe that anymore. I wonder why.
Mm.
What in me has changed, right? Or is this something that I've always had a problem believing? Because there's some stuff that we believe in, but we've had a problem believing it, but we just didn't think that there was another way of thinking about this thing.
Right.
So personally, that was a big thing for me. I had to start questioning my beliefs, even though as we were talking the other day, it would be looked at as doubt, especially coming from a religion standpoint. This is, it's doubtful. You shouldn't question that. But if something doesn't sit right with you, question it. Question it. Why not? right? Worst case scenario is like, oh shit, that's not something that I really do want to believe. Best case scenario is like, wow, I know why I believe this thing because my mind, my body, and spirit really truly aligns with this. But I think that's the part that we have a problem with because we don't want to be wrong. And then even more, we don't want the people that taught us these beliefs, we don't want them to be wrong in our eyes,
Yeah.
right? We want to protect.
Yeah, that it's like, are you being? I'm gonna add to that because
Do
I think
it.
your question then is the umbrella for everything that's gonna fall under today. Literally, it's also thinking, so questioning who taught us that am I disrespecting
Yes.
person? Am I,
Yes.
especially if it's family, right? You
Mhm.
know, or family or religious beliefs or something like that. Am I being disrespectful because like I can't get it, and
Mhm.
so how do you become your own person if you're attached to the possibility of the fear of disrespecting someone?
Right. Ooh, that's a big one, Ali. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Because I think this also goes back to what we were talking about last week, the foundational of if I question something, it means that I'm being disrespectful. It means that there's only one way of being, which is like this. And if I go against it, then that means I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
When in essence, question everything, right? Because questioning it doesn't mean you're being disrespectful. It just means that you are either trying to understand or you see a different perspective. So, you know what, like when it comes to authority figures, let's say we can put parents under authority figures, right? Religious beliefs under authority figures. Question all of it because that is part of you becoming your own person. That is part of you realizing these are some things that work for me, these are beliefs that work for me, and this is what doesn't work for me anymore. Because you're becoming a full being, right? You're getting to know who you are, the things that you like, and it's not the same, even if they brought you into this world, it's not the same as your parents. And that's okay.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, like
In
that's
unison.
okay. It's it's supposed to be like that, right? Because otherwise, if it wasn't like that, then shit, we would all be clones then. You know, clone of the same person. But it's this idea of agency, us having agency over our own lives. But if there's been so much imprint, maybe toxicity, maybe trauma, maybe like those kind of bonds, it can be really, really difficult. Actually, it is very difficult for you to go against the grain because now you're getting into the territory of my safety is being threatened, right?
Mhm.
Because if you go against these people that are giving you food, you're thinking, is baby bird gonna eat here? You know?
Right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's a great one to start. So, and you made me think of a quote that I try to do at the beginning of all of my YouTube posts, and that is, um, and it falls in line with what we're talking. Let me see. I'm just gonna read it because I always mess it up. It's okay to be afraid to let go of things that no longer serve you. Just don't get stuck in the fear. And so this is that whole thing. How do we move past things that have a place holding somewhere in our lives, but they're no
Yeah.
longer providing any, they're not netting anything for us anymore. They're just holding
Mhm.
space. And how do we release those things and then, continue on, even if we're afraid? So that's a fantastic umbrella start, because I think I was looking through my list as you were talking. I was like, I think everything fits under that.
Mhm.
Everything fits under that one Afraid to question your beliefs. Because if you're afraid to question your beliefs, you end up with lists of things that you're doing. And,
Yeah.
things that, and I'm hoping as we go through this, maybe there are aha moments for people who end up watching this, or joining in or whatever. If you guys are on and you guys have beliefs and things that, you know, you may just realize, wow, this is something that I do today, or, I was always told that, and, I wondered about it, or, please share those with us. Because I think a big part of growth is the accountability, of course. So we've got to be accountable, but a lot of times we don't even realize what we need to be accountable for or with, because we don't recognize certain things as problems, right? And so I think in having these types of talks and discussions, it's identifying things that we may be overlooking, right? And so that's why I think it's important to talk about some of these things, because everything ain't always peaches. Just because you grew up doing something all your life doesn't make it right. Right? I'll give an example of, and this is like the kind of a far reach example, but people ask all the time how people can be in abused situations. Why would a kid stay? Why would a kid, as a kid, fine, but as they grow older, why do they stay in the same situation when they can say something? When you're only taught one thing, even though it may look crazy on the other side, you think everybody lives like you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's until somebody says, no, we don't get locked in a closet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, where do you get locked? And I mean, it's just,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
it's, if that's all you know, it's all you know. And so I think these conversations are helpful in defining, maybe everything that you know isn't not necessarily, I'm not going to say right or wrong, because people do crazy things now, but it may just not be fitting any longer. So, okay, that's a good one. What else? What else you got, Joy?
Ooh. Do you want to go next, or should I go?
You go. You go. You go.
Go. Okay.
Give me more.
And then another one is, and it ties into what you just said, is not choosing acceptance and honesty with what comes up. Right? Because once you start questioning these beliefs, boy, a lot of people are going to look really rough in your eyes. And you too are going to look super rough in your eyes as well, right? But our go-to is to judge those things that come up. Oh, I shouldn't. Oh, I shouldn't. That shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have been this. This should not, should not. And I mean, I feel like for me, honestly, that was a big part, because it goes back to feeling like you're disrespecting and you're
Right.
not honoring, especially if like these beliefs have been pillars in your life, right? But choosing acceptance of the honest truth that comes up, I can say is literally one of the most healing balms for this particular thing that we're talking about, because it's just being aware of it, number one, being aware that it's there and just letting it be as is. Like, this is what is. For now, this is what is. And I can either choose to accept it, or I can fight it and say, oh, that's not it. And then it goes back into that fear conversation. Oh, I'm afraid of what people might think if I question these beliefs, right? Okay. They'll probably think you're fucking crazy. They will. That's just is what it is.
You're
But
defiant.
right, you're defiant. Oh, you should be grateful.
Right.
I can be grateful, and I can also choose a different way of living. I can
Mhm.
also choose a different way of thinking, right? It's not like an and or, it's not like an or, you can either have this one or that one, but I can be like this and be like this too, because humans are multifaceted beings. They're not just one thing, right? And so being what comes underneath that umbrella is being okay with not liking yourself and the things you find out, not liking your actions, your behaviors, your thought process, and also with other people too. Because if there are parts of you that you're coming or into a realization that, wow, this belief really made me treat myself like trash, or really made me not have boundaries in place, or really made me not speak up for myself. If you have those with yourself, then you probably also have those with other people.
Or the flip
Or,
side, you
mm-hmm,
have the you have that those types of relationships with other people and don't
mm-hmm.
even realize that you it's something that you're doing. The lack of care, oops, that was my headset. The lack of care also translates to you, right? So you
Yeah,
end up
because you're
realizing,
internalizing it.
right, and you don't even know. So that's where, I think like all the self-care, um,
Mhm,
allowing things that don't feel right. Like we are in a space where we're being taught, even if it doesn't feel right, deal with it anyway. Deal with
mhm.
it anyway. And that's not okay. We have
Yeah.
become these uh we are being desensitized to
Mhm.
our own feelings. And so then when we start talking about self-care and boundaries, because I know, let me tell you, this 4 years, that boundary thing, like, you walk around and you think like, I do this and I can take care of this, that, and the other, but people do walk all over you still. And you're like, why? How does that happen? It's only certain kind of people. Well, that means that you know how to stop some people, but there's something, this little alleyway that for whatever reason you let certain people in and you let certain people abuse or use you. Why? And who are those people? What
Mhm.
does that? So what you're saying, like when you say you have to literally look at yourself and you may not like it,
Yes.
he'd be sitting there
Yes.
like, so, so what are we gonna do? Right? It's
Mhm.
hard.
It
That is
is.
so hard. So how do you um some free life coaching, y'all, from Joy, and give you a sample of what she does for you. How do you and we'll get into more of these types of things that are going to seem so basic. How do you see it first, or and if that's like a real complex thing, because that might come with counseling and some
Mhm.
coaching and therapy, things like that. How do you start to resolve it? How do you
Mm.
I hate to say the word fix, but screw it, how do you fix it?
Right. How do you fix it? Because when you're at that point, you're really thinking that way. You're like, I gotta fix this, you know?
You
And the
do.
thing is, yeah, and the thing is, it looks so different for different people because we are at different stages of this, right? So fixing it might be the only term that you know how to use. You're not thinking self-care. Your mind is not even there. You're not thinking, oh, this means A plus B equals C. No, you're just thinking, yo, I have issues and I have to fix them. Like I
Yeah.
have to find a solution to what is going on. And I will say is keep asking more questions. Keep asking more questions and be very compassionate with what comes up, right? And I feel like these are terms that are just like thrown around. Go be compassionate. Like what does that look like when you don't even know what that looks like?
Right.
It looks like being kind to yourself.
Yep.
It looks like saying, wow, okay, okay, I'm seeing that. I see something that I don't like, but is there a part of me that can be okay with it? It doesn't have to be like full total, like, oh yeah, I'm good, I'm zen, I'm meditating. Like, honey, that's not how it works out at all. It doesn't matter what Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok is saying. That's not how it works out. Sometimes it comes into like the littlest step of saying, can a part of me be okay with this?
Mm.
And if it can't, holding it and saying, right at this moment, a part of me is not okay with it. And that being okay, right? Not like judging yourself and saying, I should be here anyway, or I shouldn't think this way. Just that self-acceptance, what it comes down to is starting to learn, what does self-acceptance look like? And
Mm,
even if you don't know what the hell that looks like for you, then ask yourself, wow, okay, I don't know what that looks like. Why don't I know? Was this modeled in my home? Is this something that I learned growing up? Is there a thought, a belief? Did someone say something that made me feel like I couldn't do or be XYZ? You
mm,
get what I'm saying? So it,
yeah.
it comes from like the little things, you guys. I think a lot of people think it has to be these grand gestures of now I'm finally at a Zen place where everything can, oh, let me just stop you right there because that is not, it's not gonna work, and it's getting to slowly the core of these things. First, allowing whatever is there to just be. And if you can't allow it, try to accept it. And if you can't accept it, can you be okay with it? And if you can't be okay with it, can a little tiny part of yourself be okay with it? See, so it's like levels, like this big word, and then you go to the next level. And if I can't do this, can I do this little part right here? If I can't do this little part, can I do this tiny, tiny part? And I promise you, at some point, there is an iota of you, that inkling that can be okay with it. Because when you come to a point where you're starting to question your beliefs, it's like a sort of awakening is happening.
Mhm.
It's like a deeper part of you is calling you forth to wake up, to look at things differently. Maybe you don't like where you are currently, or maybe you do and you want to share with other people, but you're afraid of what that looks like. So it's like going to like the one underneath it. And then a few other things is allow yourself to be wrong.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to screw it up. Allow yourself to say all the wrong things. You don't have to get it perfectly. And I think that was the biggest problem for me, where I was like, I need to fix it. It has to be the right way. That I was
Yep.
like, that is so exhausting. And I don't even have the energy to do any of that. So, can I allow myself to be wrong and it be okay with it? Me to be okay with it because it gets to be messy. This process of uncovering gets to be and will be messy. So it's like, okay, can I embrace how messy it's going to be and how difficult it might be? Or do I want it to look a certain way? So, like, asking those deep questions and at the end of it saying, can I be okay with it?
Hmm.
However it comes out. Because Ali, I always say this, whether we talk about it or not, whether we're okay with it or not, these things are still happening.
Life goes
They
on. That is not just
right.
a thing. Time keeps ticking. Yeah.
Right. These things are still happening. So wouldn't it be better if you looked at them and then you're like, okay, well, they're still happening. I might as well talk about them because it's not doing me any good, right? I might as well see what's happening here because me not talking about it, me not questioning it, is not changing the core of what's happening underneath the surface.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And the longer we go, the more we got to dig out.
Okay, so just start excavating right
Yeah.
now.
And that's what makes it difficult, I think, to get started for some people's number one, you don't even know where to start. Um, a lot of times I think people get to that point of there's too much. That's like,
Mm,
where
mhm.
do I even begin? And I think giving ourselves some grace, number one, because as we start going through these processes, years go by. That's why people say, you can't. When people say, "Okay, fine, I'll go to therapy," they think they're gonna go to one therapy session and think it's gonna be okay. No, you probably need years, especially if you're
Yeah.
an adult,
Yeah.
right? And if you've never gone to therapy or any type of coaching or whatever, you don't even. A lot of times, we say we want to do something, but our natural fight you got to work through that. Like your therapist or coach or um, mentor, whatever it is, has to get through those layers because a lot of times we don't come in laying down, even though they got
Mm-mm.
that couch over there and they be like, you know, go ahead and you know, but it's so funny because it's one of the things when I was talking about my son last week and some of the things that I look back at, we did when he was in high school, when I was like, okay, I know there's things that I want to correct and I want to start. How do I start? And I had a friend who was a coach and we went to her um, for life coaching. And a big part of it was what you just said, allow yourself to be wrong. Do you know what you just opened about 14 years of therapy I'm going to need? Okay. Because I grew up in life believing and I don't know if it's a grew up or if it became more prominent as I got older or once I had a child that I had to get it right. I had to, like I was talking about last time, I had to get it right. I had to, these ducks had to be in a row. And so I used to always think that if you ask a lot of questions, you look dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I can't look dumb. And that's going to lead into some of the lists I have when I get into work related things. You got to always look like you know. You got to know. You got to know.
Right.
So that's
Because
that.
smart
That's going to
people
bring up.
always know, right?
Come
Smart
on,
people have all the answers. And
come
if you
on.
don't have the answers, do you belong here then?
Right. And so I gotta always look like I know everything. And I remember, I mean, I could just think of so many different examples, but I will say now, the smartest person is the person who asks all the questions. And I remember this little girl in my son's classes and stuff when he was in high school. And for some reason, I was in some of the classes. I can't even remember why, but I remember she would ask these questions. And she was one of those girls that was always like just
Okay.
loquacious.
Yeah.
I could recognize it. But she would always like, and it would be the question she would ask. I would just be like, there's no way you don't know that. But what was happening, and then she ended up getting picked for like different things later on. And I realized a big part of it too is that she was setting herself apart. She was being noticed because she wasn't afraid to look silly because they tell us there is no wrong answer, there is no dumb question. But in essence, many of us be like, that's dumb. That was dumb. And that's one reason why a lot of times we don't go for counseling, we don't go for coaching. It's hard to get mentors and things like that because we don't want to sit and feel inadequate,
Mm.
you know?
Mm.
Uh,
Right.
yeah. So, yeah, when you said that, I was just like, oh, that's where we going today. Okay. And if y'all can tell, if y'all watching this, we clearly did not share notes and lists before. So I have no idea what's on her list. And so I didn't know she
No.
was going to do this. I know. But that's why I was like, let's start because you got some good stuff. Like, yeah, this is, I think those are really critical because, and those are like starters. Those are starters to even having a conversation around beliefs that could be holding you back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because how do you even get to that minute point if you don't even feel that you could be vulnerable?
Mm-hmm. Or
How do you,
even if you don't think you could,
yeah,
it's not a thing that happens for you. You don't have the option.
right. Ooh.
You don't have the
Ooh.
option to be vulnerable. You're
Right.
supposed to have your shit together. That's it. That's
Ooh.
just it.
Ooh.
So when you don't have the option, okay, where do you go then? Where do you go? And I think for me, a big thing of what set a lot of these off is looking around and saying, it got to a point, and I mentioned this last week. I said, I started looking around and I said, they look like they're living different. What's their thought process like? What do they think about, right? Because I grew up I've always been an achiever, high achiever. Let's hit the ground running. Let's keep it pushing. It's all about the results, the goals, the blah, 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 right?
You didn't
And
die, did you? You got there, right?
okay, let's get there. And then come to realize all that was a trauma response. It was tied to my worthiness, my not enoughness, how much I needed to be all these things for someone to say, I see you, I love you. You know, all the things that we need as human beings. But it's getting to a point where you start, because when you start questioning your thoughts and your beliefs, and then you start looking around and you say, huh, well, they're living different. It looks like the results that they're getting, okay, what made them think like that to get to where they are? You might like it, you might not like it, but guess what? You learned something new about someone else, which usually helps you learn something new about yourself. So looking around and saying, I think this way, but I guess there's another way of thinking, which goes into the options, Ali. Because when you look around, like that little girl, in her mind, she had all the options. Being vulnerable, speaking her mind, that was one of her options, right? She probably didn't think like a lot of us think, or maybe she did, we don't know her story, but she wasn't limited. And so when you start opening your mind, you start seeing that there's different ways of thinking, there's options of what you can do. There's people have different beliefs. And if you like them, look into it a little bit more, right? But I think it goes back to the fear of if I start questioning this, I'm starting to question the identity and the fabric of who I am. And if I start questioning the identity and the fabric of who I am, then who am I? Has everything been a lie? Right? Because again, we don't want to be wrong. We don't want it to be a lie. We want it to truth because we are attached so much, rightfully so, because we're only human. But as we start asking these questions of ourselves, of other people, and saying it's okay, and being honest with what comes up, we open so many possibilities of life, things that will bring us joy that we didn't even know that would bring us joy. So slowly, your misery starts to fall away because now and we'll talk about this later, now you're getting into the essence of who you are, into that authenticity with vulnerability of what this human experience is, not just what you were told should be, but what you're choosing to say, oh, this feels like this works for me now. And next year it might be different. So what? I'll be a different person next year.
Right. And the which all of that, or I shouldn't say all of it, that well, little big piece feeds into this idea of happiness. And there's, like when people think, you're happy because you have this, you have that, all of these different things. And I'm finding that happiness is when you can be your true authentic self. Like I became, as I would regurgitate that example of that little girl or anyone else that I would meet that could be vulnerable, like I was jealous because I have to work at actually not knowing something, not doing a bunch of research so that I come in and I already have an idea. And that plays into a whole lot of stuff. I'll just throw out one, Black excellence,
Mm-hmm.
you
You
know,
can say that again.
or Black women excellence, or, this queen notion of carrying, we got to carry everything. That is, I think, a belief system that I'm ready to throw that one in the garbage. I'm not saying we're not excellent and we can't be, or we shouldn't want to be, we shouldn't want to thrive for it. I think the belief and the how that is identified, how we view that and what's associated with it can have some negative connotation because it forces us to start creating ideals of what happiness is, what it looks like, and that, along with many other things, I think take us away from identifying who we actually want to be.
Mhm.
That's how I want to say it yeah, it keeps us from actually going down a path that is driven solely by who I am, because I don't know who I
Mhm.
am and what I actually want. So when people are like, "Oh, I want this, I want that," and you're like, "Do you really?" And
Mm.
maybe you do, but maybe
Yeah.
you don't. And maybe you
Mhm.
do because you saw it. Like, how many times have you, like, literally, you'll have the TV playing and you got to get up and go somewhere, and you put on some clothes and you think later on, I literally dressed just like a commercial that I was watching.
Yes, you've been programmed to think that's what you should. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see it, and that's the whole
Yeah.
point of commercials. That's why you go in the store and buy Totinos, you know, because the little kid went and got in the fridge, whatever, right? And it's like all of this programming and stuff, beliefs, programming,
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
this programming that we go through life receiving and not knowing which parts are okay to throw out. Okay, I'll keep this one, throw out. And I think that's why I've gravitated so much to Kabbalah, because
Mm.
it was teaching about a higher power and all of that, but it also taught about internal power. And the one example of that was is take what resonates and leave the rest.
Mm.
You have a right to take the parts
Mhm.
that fit. I
Mhm.
got really into reading novel stuff, intent. That's why I love Carlos Castaneda books, because he really spoke from what probably a lot of people would think is he's hot. He was high, you
Mhm.
know. But when we talk about people with multiple personalities and people who are under the influence, the reason that they're so different is because they've tapped into that Lucy part of their existence.
Mhm.
They've crossed over, like in Wonder Woman, when that wall separates the ugly part of the world from the Amazon, and you go through this thing, you're like, wait a minute, did I just stick my hand? Right? And that's what
Yeah.
happens is now you're more clairvoyant because you
Mhm.
actually have the space and the capacity because you don't have the limits, right? And so when we start thinking
Yes.
about things from that perspective, you know, you start to figure out whether or not you truly know yourself or not. Do I is and that's why a lot of times, like you said, next year I may want something different. I may change. So being okay being wrong, allowing yourself to be wrong, and also being okay that you may change.
Yes.
You could change your mind, but do
Yeah.
it the right way, right? Like I think that happens a lot in this day and time. A lot of people change their mind. If we just look at divorce, right? And I didn't even say marriage. Just said divorce. Just cut to
Before.
the chase. How many people are getting married because they think they have to, right?
Yes.
I
Mhm.
can't have kids unless I'm married. I can't, I won't be set for life if I'm not married. Okay. We
Mhm.
won't get into that today. Um, there's, all of these things. And then all these people are getting divorced, and we're sitting on the sidelines devastated because we can't believe they getting divorced. And we just like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's not necessarily what they wanted in the first place. Maybe they did it
Mhm.
because they felt they had to. But can you be connected to a person without, there being some sort of license? And one of the things I hear a lot of women say, I wanted a family.
Mm. Wow.
And you hear a lot of men say, I wanted the purity of, or I wanted, like that idea of possession, you
Mm.
know? Um,
Mhm.
and so that's to me one of those beliefs
Ooh.
that are programming that we have, that in order to be successful in certain views, um, status, and all of that, that's one of the criteria. Have we ever had knowingly had a president who wasn't married?
Mm.
Can the American people accept
Accept it.
a president who was not married? Think about it.
And then thinking about also I'm going to add on to that what that signifies. What is it about marriage? What is that significance? What does that signify, that that person is a family man? Also with ourselves. So that's like broaden the community. And then with our own selves, I want a family. Are you wanting to recreate the family that you didn't have?
What do
Right?
you?
Or I want possession. I want to have something that's mine. Are you trying to recreate something that you didn't have? Have you not felt that you could have anything, or you could be in control, or you could be the man, or you could have the strength and the power? And this is something that makes you feel all of those things. And so, because that's the only thing you just go towards it without questioning it because that's all you know. There's no other way. So
Right.
it like goes so much deeper, and it starts like this process really just starts to blow your mind. And that's why they say it's not easy. You are allowed to take breaks. You are allowed to be like, fam, I'm done excavating. For the next 2 years, I'm gonna be asleep. Let me pause, right? And I think there's also so much of that when we're talking about being in therapy and this personal development, self-development, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people don't realize that this is a lifelong process
Mm-hmm.
because it's a choice of the life that you're creating for yourself, who you
Yep.
are being, right? There isn't like an end destination. The end destination is not you looking like what we're doing. The end destination can be so different for you where you realize, wow, this is what I really true value in my life, and not, oh, if I look a certain way, then that means I've reached, right? And then even questioning it. And
Yeah.
Ali, I love something that we were talking last week. This question that I always ask myself when it comes to beliefs, when it comes to myself, what I believe, what other people believe, what I see in the world. I ask myself, who is this benefiting? Who is this benefiting? Right? Because it can
Yes.
be so easy to just go from one pattern, use the same pattern, but now it looks different. It wears different clothing. It drives a different car, but it's the same thing, you
Yes.
know? And so being okay with excavating and whatever comes up, saying, okay, well, this is what's going on. I like it or I don't like it. And also, which is a thing that is not talked about a lot, is the grieving process,
Mm.
the grief of what you think should have been, what was
Ooh.
supposed to be, the person that you thought you were supposed to be, or even the person that you are now, if it doesn't truly align with who you want to be, right? And we don't talk a lot about grief because, we don't think that these are like it's a loss, but it is a loss. It's like an identity restructuring. It's just the same way as, losing a friendship. There has to be grief that comes with that because you're losing something that was a part of you, right? Losing someone that is near and dear to your heart. That is a big loss. Now imagine losing who you thought you were. It's a big old like throw it all away. I can't
Right.
do it.
Right.
Help.
Right. And the worst part is when we never get to a point where
Yeah.
we even consider the fact that we could grieve for ourselves, for who,
Yeah.
like, if you imagine never getting to a point where you realize that maybe who you are isn't who you are. Imagine going through your entire life believing that you're something else and never really figuring out why you aren't happy.
Wow. That's hard. And I think a lot of people are living it. That's why they're so unhappy.
Yeah. I mean, like, because a lot of the stuff is, mental health is like big topics now. Self care, another
Hmm.
catchphrase.
Another big one.
Um, yeah, and like you were saying earlier, do we even know what those mean?
Right.
Do we even like going to the spa? Yeah, but I define it a little bit different because I can go to the spa and still not know who I am, right? Or know or not understand why I needed that spa outside of, my shoulders hurt. And so somebody's going
Mhm.
to work out the kinks, right? And not associating them working out the kinks with what caused the kinks in the first place.
Mhm.
So
Ooh.
one of the things that in my work life, when I was in corporate America, especially the last couple of years, and I knew that I just had to get out, is my body became, um, it was like the alarm. And so when I was stressed and I wasn't necessarily feeling like this stress, like, attack or anything like that, but my body would naturally, that's why literally the other day I was like, I feel like I'm lopsided. I need an adjustment. But like whenever I was in a stressed place and it would hit me, and this is how I knew I was in a stressful moment or whatever, is this whole side from here on, the pain, like I literally would have, and it wasn't even spasm, it was like I would cramp up or whatever. And it would always happen in those times where I was very uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
Um, and the only thing that would work is I would literally have to go and do an inversion. I'd have to go and be upside down. And that would
Mhm.
immediately release the pain or the strain and the stress and the how it would, kind of bunch up and all of that. And then because I had to stop whatever I was doing to resolve that, I then had to take the time to think about what's wrong, what's
Mm.
bothering me. And sometimes it wasn't even the incident right there, but it was something that I was holding on to back here, or something that, that I just hadn't released, I hadn't dealt with, like like we're talking about, like I hadn't come to the realization that I'm not happy. I'm going with the flow. They said go with the flow. I'm going in.
That's
I'm
what I'm
making
doing. But
I'm
I'm
making the
still not
money.
happy. So
Right.
now what?
Now what we gonna do? Now you
Yeah.
ungrateful, right?
Hmm.
Now you
Yeah.
ungrateful.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm gonna go through a few, and I don't even want to necessarily talk about each one of these, although I got notes. But I want to read off some of the ways that the beliefs presented themselves for me, or things that I could see externally or whatever, around me in my space. And like some of these things, it took a while. And even I think it was earlier today, oh no, yesterday I was sitting and I'm thinking I'm done. And as I'm writing, I was just like, oh, but wait, what about, all these things that literally pop up that happen every single day, things that we accept, and we don't even realize that they are potentially driving us in a certain path, whether or not we want to go down that path or not. And
Mm.
we are blindly accepting that it is the way that we should go,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give one because I feel like this one plays into our success, whether we, a lot of times in this space where we are moving about, or, we're trying to decide if we're going to become nomads or travel around the world. One of the biggest things is we don't know if we can do it, right? So, one, I think this belief that we're told all the time is move in silence.
Mm.
It's a double-headed sword. Is that right? Double edged, something like that, because I get what that means. And that's this one I'm just going to go ahead and speak on. When people say move in silence and people don't need to know what you're doing, no successful person became successful by themselves. I
Mm.
don't care what nobody says, because even the Koch brothers, the Waltons, the Rockefellers, they built something and now they'll have wealth for eternity, and all of, the ancestor, kids and heirs and stuff like that. but they did it because they figured out how to collectively do things in their group, right? They went to certain people. You think Warren Buffett doesn't have a group, a staff, I don't know what they call them. He's
like a mastermind, right?
right.
Peers, mastermind. Yeah.
Right. How did Apple make it? How did,
Yeah.
when we talk about Bill Gates and, uh, Jobs and Steve Jobs and, all of these people, they had that one or two. Now, it wasn't a big circle. That's why I said like lives, nomadic circles, because it's going to be smaller groups. The problem is what we do wrong is we tell the wrong people. So we tell people who are not our future. We tell people who don't have the same vision, and they don't have to want to do the exact same thing as us, but they're not even trying. Like I posted this guy talking about the specific thing. He basically says, you can't, if you want to succeed and go to the next level, or you want to be financially settled or stable, or you want to have some growth in somewhere, you can't be with people who are not successful in those areas, right? You can't we're aligning with the wrong people. That's probably the easiest way to say this. So when they say move in silence, they may move in silence from the people that are going to bring you down and not support you.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I learned, and this is part of what we're talking about here with this being okay, being wrong, being okay, going to coaching and stuff. How do you build a successful business or figure out how to take the steps if you don't have support, if you don't have coaching, if you don't have guidance? How do you do that? So you can't move in silence. You just need to pick the right aligned people
to move with
you.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
that was one. I was like, that move in silence is BS, right?
Can I add on to that, Ollie? Because I feel like, honey, yes. And I think a lot of us start to feel guilty. We feel like we're leaving people behind.
Because we are.
Right. You are. You are, and it's like you are because you want something different. And if they don't want something different as well, it's okay to leave them behind. They're on their own journey. That's okay. If they want to come, cool. If they don't want to come, that's okay. But because we feel so attached and like we owe these groups of people and communities with people, we don't even make the room to allow the people that are supposed to be in our lives to come. So because that space has been taken by these groups of people, that you love, obviously, because, you want to be attached to them, you want to be a part of it, but it's taken by these groups of people, experiences, jobs, so many things that are not moving you forward if that's what you want to do. And by moving forward, we don't just mean like success in terms of money, because we get to figure out what success looks like for us. If you're someone where part of your success, and this goes down to defining your success and questioning the beliefs about success of what they are, if you're someone that you really feel like you want to have a good, healthy marriage, for instance, right? You have to start surrounding yourself with people that have good, healthy marriages. You have to know how the hell it looks like, because otherwise, where you gonna get it? What's gonna happen, right? You're tilling new ground. You're starting to pioneer a different way of being and doing. And so now it goes into the uncomfortableness of saying, okay, I get to let this go because this is what life is requiring of me, or this is what I'm requiring of myself. Because saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So you just have to choose. What do you want to say yes to, and what do you want to say no to? And being okay with those people not liking you. That's hard. That's difficult. They probably
what we call it, participation awards. Everybody gets one. No, everybody's not gonna be happy. Everybody ain't a winner today. Somebody has to be a loser. You're absolutely right.
yes, and that's okay. If you're losing, that just means you're learning different ways of not doing something. Like it's okay. I think this idea of groupthink, and honestly, Ali, I feel like, and I've seen this, and I know that a lot of it comes from us wanting to be safe. If I leave my pack of what I know, if I am the single one out here, like this lion is really gonna come and devour me. So
Yeah.
no, I'm just gonna come back. I'm just going to come back. And so it gets into, again, that internal process of saying, I'm safe. There's no lion that's trying to get me. Doing things differently with how I want to do, I can start feeling safe doing those things. And whether they like it or not, it's okay. And then you realize that there are more people that want, like, you get your tribe. You find your people that really do value and love you. And they're like, oh my gosh, you did that. That's amazing. I want to do the same thing too. Or I'm thinking in the same kind of way. So we're so conditioned into thinking about what we're going to lose that we don't realize that we gain so much more in the process. And what you're losing, are you really, really, truly losing something if someone wants to keep you in a box, tell you how to think, tell you how to dress, tell you how to do all these different things? Are you really losing on much?
Right. The fear of letting go of things that no longer serve you, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So yes, all of that. So I just wanted to debunk that move in silence. That's almost also going to debunk another really big one, and that's Team No Sleep. I'm gonna tell you why Team No Sleep is a bunch of BS. Number one,
Yeah.
we're going to use Joy's question: who benefits? So some people will say you will, and some people say, when you start your own business and stuff like that, you probably have sleep fewer hours, and that's probably true, especially if you're brick and mortaring it and all of that. Yeah, I get that. But one of the things that I want us to understand is that biologically, we know that you cannot be successful long term without sleep.
Yep.
So people who think that sleeping 3 hours, 4 hours a day and stuff like that, well, I'm getting it done. I'm out here hustling, all of that. Yeah, that's great. But that's also how we dictate our serotonin levels, which is you're happy, right? This is how we end up with bad gut health, right? This is how we end up with heart health issues and finally brain health. So if you're not getting any sleep, your brain is not being allowed to kind of replenish itself. Your skin, all of that, like our bodies go through a whole rebooting process during sleep, and if you're not giving it enough time, you only gonna have so many team no sleep, you know, years to your life. And for a while, I'm sure we could probably associate that to certain time frames when we specifically know from the U.S., life expectancy had dropped tremendously. I'm sure it was a time when maybe Great Depression times and people struggling. You got mental stress, all those things. And so when you're not sleeping, one of the things we know, if team no sleep is such a good thing, then why do we tell our kids they need 8 hours plus?
Wow. Yes.
So when you get
Yes.
older, you need less? No, you actually need more because you have more thought. You're doing a lot more. Your body is going through a lot more. And then talk about women. We have a thing that we go through every month for over 40 years. I'm counting. Trust me. I'm just trying to figure out. I'm losing pints of essence stuff. I don't know if it's appropriate to say blood on here, but this is something that
Right.
we go through all the time. And we literally are shunned and pushed into now they have a name for it. Oh, she must be, team, she's being a beeb, so she must be on her, it must be that time of the month, instead of allowing grace. And even to a point where we as women look at it as a negative thing.
Yeah.
We don't want to go through it. Oh
Mhm.
my God. We don't, because it's painful and it's annoying and it goes on forever. Like I'm at a point, I'm just going to veer off here. Why can't I say, okay, so I'm done having children. Like I can go in and like click a little something and it's like, okay, it's over. Like, why do I have to for my body to say now, okay, I'm done. I don't want to have children. Like, I don't want no more. Like, so why am I even going through? Yeah, okay, that was a whole thing, right? But that's that um, attached to this idea of showing your greatness by never sleeping. You always
Mhm.
up. You up before everybody else. You up before everybody else, and you work hard. You this, and that's it. That's that work harder. But we also have to learn how to work smarter, because if we, one of my favorite movies, The Abyss, when they were trying to offer them all this pay to go and find the submarine and all this stuff because something had happened and everything. And the guy was like, what good does it do if, we can't spend the money because, something falls off or whatever. He's
Right.
like, what good does it do? And a lot of
Yeah.
times we don't think about that. All we're thinking about is that immediate gratification, right? But how do you even get immediate gratification if you're exhausted all the time?
Right. And you can't even think.
Right.
So does it help? Does it even work for you? For someone that used to be team no sleep, yo, just don't do it. Just don't do it.
You
Because
put
here's
my
the
usher
thing.
finger up.
We're passing the basket. Because the thing is, guys, when it gets down to a point where you're so conditioned and so programmed to literally take away a necessity for you to be alive for productivity to get things, like that's when we just have to sit with ourselves and say, wait a minute. This math is not mathing. This
Yeah.
1 plus 1 is like 11 and it's not 2. Like this is not working out.
Okay.
Right.
It's
And then we start getting health problems, like what you were
yes.
talking about, mental health problems. I remember when I started when I started seeing a therapist, I remember thinking, and she would ask me these questions and, how's your sleep? How's this? How's this? In my mind, it was never, oh, maybe the sleep is the problem. Maybe I should eat more. Maybe I should stop skipping breakfast, lunch, and then maybe get something for dinner because there's so much work to do and I just have to do it. Excuse me, I think the biggest form of radical self-love, and someone said there's a book out talking about rest. I forget what it's called, but rest as revolution, rest
Mm.
being revolutionary and claiming it and saying, okay, I know that's how you guys want to do things out there, but guess what? It's not working for me. And it being okay, and then realizing that there's rhythms of life. There are times where, yes, it is team no sleep, but because you're choosing, right? You're choosing to be like, wow, okay, I can go a little bit more for this thing. Not because it's by default, not because, oh, what are people going to think because I'm not productive? Can we talk about these productivity beliefs? Like, do you really think God put you on earth to just be a robot, to churn things out and be like, oh my gosh, look at how much I'm producing. I have this and this and this and this and this, but I am breaking down in the back. What you don't see the breaking down in the back. You don't see you being so far removed from who you really are. So is the result really that beneficial?
Because what are we
At
doing?
the end of the day? Yeah.
Right. What are we doing? We're training ourselves to accept a behavior and ill feeling, something that does
Mhm.
not feel right. And it is
Yeah.
becoming a pattern. It is becoming something that we're just accustomed to doing. And I'm going to say at 50 years old, when you start going through this, who am I? Who do I want to be? And you start realizing how much you've got to work through, how many
Mhm.
belief systems you actually have to break, because now they just become a part of you. They become innate, they become habitual, because this is just how you survive, right? And then we start thinking that this is who you are, man. But is it really, or is it who
Mm.
you're programmed to be, right? The next one is black, or well, white excellence, thinking that we have to
Woo!
live up to what white excellence is, and the flip
Mm.
side, black excellence. This belief that I have to be so great because I'm black,
Mm.
and it's And the reason I'm using those two is because those are words that these are buzzwords that we're starting to hear a lot. I don't think we hear white excellence. I think we hear white supremacy, but that's from the negative standpoint. But when I say the white excellence, it's this idea that we have to look a certain way. We have to, in order to be successful, success is gauged and based on this one
the standards.
Level. Yeah,
there's a standard.
That's the word I'm looking for. And thinking that we have to, and let me associate it with, for example, in a Black community kind of way, one of the things that we really pushed or, strive for is having adequate schools, adequate books, and, just having all the things that you think you should have in a school, and those not being necessarily the standard in, urban city schools or schools where, the population was predominantly Black. And so one of the things that we would see a lot is what we were striving for is, well, we just want what they have.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. And so when you start wanting what someone else has, you start to lose yourself and forget what it is that you actually wanted in the first place, right? Which is why we accept so many, like from political people when they come out and they have all these little clicky statements and things.
Oh, their slogans, and their
we're gonna do this and we're gonna do this and like I don't know if we were talking about this offline or when we did the part 1 last week, when we're the idea of you go in with a specific ask, but you're rewarded with example. You know what? We need to do more in making sure that tax dollars are spread out evenly and, infrastructure happens over here. And yeah, I hear you. So what the city then does is politicians now make a commercial and it's got Black people in it.
Yes.
So you're recognized because now we're putting you, at the front of our campaign, but we're actually not going to redo your roads or ensure that the route to the school is safe for the kids and that there's actually buses. We're not going to really do that, but hey, we're going to make this commercial and say that, and we're going to even put you in it. Why? Mm-hmm. Because who benefits from that, right? Mm-hmm. So it's little things like that. It's the idea of being sidetracked from what you want, what you really want, what you're really asking for, because now you just want to match and mimic this excellence line that has been presented to you. We can go on about that one.
Ooh,
but
honey.
But yeah, these are all things that in my illustrious 50 years of living, 38 years of working, things that I've heard. I want to jump on the hustle mentality, right? Why do we think when we say hustle, we think of negativity, like somebody selling dope or, doing, whatever. But when we say hustle, we don't think of corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think of, people who are truly wealthy. How did they get that wealthy? Somebody had to take advantage of somebody at some point, but we don't call that hustling. We don't look at that in a negative light. When people commit fraud, when all of our banks crash and stuff like that, and then we bailed them out, we differentiate that, and then we call people who are in a lower class system, begging. They got their hands out, all of these different types of things, right? And I now realize, or not now, but over time, realize how important it is to hustle. And this is one of my requirements, even when I'm dating, is hustle. You know how to hustle. And I don't mean just like, can you go out on the street and make some money? I also mean, can you survive
Mm.
without this made up structure that we live in, right? Because if we think about one of the things that I'll associate this to our traveling, right?
Mhm.
One of the things that we have this belief is that everything is greater in the U.S. and we have abundance and everything. The reason why the U.S. is viewed as so great is because you can make money any kind of way, even if it ain't legal. You can make money, right? And make tons of money, right? So that's what makes it
Mhm.
so amazing. But on the flip side, too, it also is becomes a negative thing because if everything crashes, if let's say if we have like a true blackout internet thing, we got people can't even go to the store, don't even know how to buy stuff, don't what happens when you can't access your online banking? You can't go
Mm.
to the store, you can't get money, you can't. What happens? Do we know how to eat off the land? If we walking up and
Mm.
down the street, do we know which berry to eat? My rule of thumb is if the berries are still there, that means the birds ain't eating them, so don't eat it. That's my rule of thumb. But do we even think like that, right? And
That is a good one.
I had a bosamberry tree, and one of my friends, I used to go and I used to pick these things off my tree and eat them. And my friend was like, "Why are you eating that off the tree? You shouldn't eat that stuff." And I go, "Yeah, but you go to the store and buy stuff in a box and eat it. Like you will eat things from a box, and that's okay. Like nobody questions and looks at that as a negative thing, right? And so we have this negative association with hustling, but don't realize. And so what we then do as, and I'm gonna tell you one thing I hate when people say third world, first world, third world, all of this other stuff, right? And I go, no, what we're talking about is development or infrastructure, right? Let's actually use the appropriate terms because who benefits from us saying first and third? I mean, like, where's the second at? I mean, like, so who fall in second? Because I feel like
Yeah.
the U.S. is technically third world because in water, one of the main criteria used to determine the level or the class system for your country. Well, don't we have states in the U.S. that don't have clean water and haven't had clean water for years? So what does
Right.
that say? So I always look at those kinds of things, but in essence, what we do is that belief makes us turn our nose up when we think about living in other places. And this is a belief that can hold us back from achieving our dreams. So it's a lot of times people are like, man, I would love to move, but I ain't going nowhere where, I can't drink the water, I can't flush stuff in the toilet, I can't, and I'm just like, but what world made you think that actually is good to do? Like, is it actually better to put all this stuff in our septic systems? Like, we think, whatever, right? So all of those things, and having beliefs of being better than other places because sometimes those people hustle, right? Man, I get tired of people always, and we do, it's called that haggling and people coming up and hustling and all that, but they know how to survive. So, right, they know how to survive. Do we know how to survive? Can we make it if we don't have these structures of making money? Like I love the idea that I can come on and hopefully build up my YouTube channel and start getting paid from YouTube. I love that idea. That is fantastic. Well, why not? Right? But if I don't have that, do I know how to make it? Can I make it? Right? So the hustle mentality, the negativity that having a hustle mentality is one of those belief things that I think, we really need to rethink sometimes, and we need to add it to our list of prerequisites. Boo. How you gonna make that dollar stretch? I met a guy when I used to do volunteer work in Dallas, and we do food drives and stuff, and this was a continuous thing. We would go like every week or a couple times a month, different places and stuff, and ended up meeting a guy who sold water. So he would go and buy, he'd get his money however he would get it. But he was home, he lived on the streets, or, he didn't like believe in rent or like buying houses and stuff like that. He was like, he was like, I could if I wanted to. But one of the things that he talked about in terms of making money, he said, I can go buy a case of water. So 24 things of water for $3.88, $5. And I can sell it for $1. Where y'all think that, man, you making $1 selling water or whatever. He said, but can y'all count? He said, the math is I just made $24 and I spent $5. Everybody need water. Everybody wants water at some point in time.
Oh.
So we look at him negatively because he's in on the street selling it. But we'll go to a ball game and pay $3.50 for it. That's not a hustle, because it's organized hustle from a big corporation. So that's okay.
Right. And then, this brings up a point when you said that, how changing that belief, realizing, okay, isn't that what the Bill Gates, isn't that what the Warren Buffetts, isn't that what they did? Creatively working smart, taking something and seeing a different way of doing it and doing it. And so whether you want to call it hustle or innovation, right?
Yes.
Right. Hustle or innovation, you're taking something and you're creating something else out of it. I really like that you brought this up, because Ali, hustle for me has always been that, okay, you got to keep going, don't stop, got to do it until you die. Rest is for the lazy, or whatever, you'll sleep when you're dead type of bullshit, right? So for me, that is like the hustle mentality that I am not okay with, because I'm like, but do you really? Do you really? There's someone I mean, I'm pretty sure that's not all that people are doing to survive in this world. There's some people that have found a way to work with what they have to create even more from it. So it being called hustle or innovation or whatever it is that it's being called, I feel like personally, it's the intention behind it. Why am I doing this? Like that guy, he's not out there, selling the water like he was selling. He's not out there doing it because he's like, oh, I have to do this so people can see how much work I'm putting in. He don't even care. He's like, I'm doing this because this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's to put food on the table for myself or to just live an alternative lifestyle that works for me. This is something that I'm choosing to do. But how many of us find ourselves doing things that we really do not want to do? And we don't even remember why we started doing it anyway. It's not bringing us any happiness, but somewhere, somehow, we were told that this is what you're supposed to do because it pleases, or it gets to this standard that you have never seen, you don't know what it looks like, and so no, you just keep doing it over and over and over again, like a hamster on a wheel, without even ever questioning it, because there's no other options. That's the only way. Or the other options, it's stupid. You shouldn't do that. Who does that?
You blend in when you blend in.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes,
sometimes
it's safer to blend in, right?
it's
It's
safe.
comfortable.
Yes,
People
because
will like you when you're blending in.
that's the whole thing with this excellence standard, right?
Mhm.
You got to look like, we've been programmed to believe we've got to look like someone else. And so I'm just going to go ahead and jump to that one.
Go in there.
I'm gonna go to this whole, what did I call it? Um, this belief as a Black woman that I need to wake up and my hair need to fall into place.
Wow, 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 wow.
Like, I spent all my life hating the fact that if I lay right here, this is how I'm gonna wake up, and when I walk, it's gonna be like this until I, do something.
Fluff it out.
When that wind blow and it do this, like, it's probably PROLLY, is probably gonna stay like this, right? But and not and one of the things I used to always ask is, or wonder about, is when you start presenting other norms, other things as norms, see like this piece, right? Like it's just like it's so, until I do something with it, that's what it's going to do. But things were beautiful until we presented something else. And that something else was, ooh, right? And then it becomes, well, that's the norm that you have to aspire to. And as a Black woman, like I want to debunk this one so badly. Number one, because we're in this whole natural hair movement thing. Like we're really just like, you lucky if I put a brush to it. But one of the things that just frustrate me so much is so you're telling me I can't, like, even in our own community, one of the things that I hate that drives me up a wall is when I hear a man tell me that my hair isn't kept, or when am I going to straighten it, or your edges looking a little. No, my edges look natural.
This is how they grow out of my head.
This is what the Lord made, right? Okay. And those things just and in the beginning, yeah, it would like make you cringe. But what I and many others did is we would fall in line. You go get a perm. So now we're putting chemicals in and all these things that impact us in a negative way. And the reason I ended up going natural and stop, well, I shouldn't say natural, but I stopped perming my hair was because someone asked me a question. This is why I started my beauty and bath line. Somebody asked me a question, or I shouldn't say someone, but it used to come up quite often, the comment that women are crazy. And I said to myself, is there some truth to this? And the reason I questioned it is because I had started looking at one point in time, the FDA had a link on their site where you could go and actually read every ingredient that you see on boxes on products and things. You could actually go look at FDA and see if it was regulated. So out of millions and millions of ingredients that are used in different products, only about like 88,000 or so are actually noted in the FDA. And that's when I learned, and this was, what year is it? 15 years ago, 20 years ago, or something like that. That's when I realized that the makeup industry is not regulated. It's still ain't regulated to this day. So there are certain ingredients that if you put them in your products and it's an FDA listed ingredient, then you have to list it. But one of the things that happens in the US is we think that what we see on an ingredient list or box, I thought I had something, that's all that's in it. No, those are the things that the FDA regulates that you have to list. It doesn't mean that that's all that's in it, because one of the things they used to make lipstick with was whale blubber. That's not on there. That's natural though. I'm just gonna say. I'm not saying, it's something that the Eskimos would use. They actually use the blubber from whales to moisturize their lips. This is back in the day, right? But one of the things that made me start creating my own line is, number one, I couldn't pronounce anything. Like I couldn't pronounce any of the ingredients, which means that it's synthetic. Right? It's a man-made ingredient. And if it's a man-made ingredient, then how do I know what it is? And a couple of the things that they would say is, were deadly would be like propylene glycol. Anything with glycol on the end, you kind of got to be mindful of it. But things with CIDE, NIDE, XIDE, things like that, pay attention to, right? And so they say like a certain percentage, and this ain't going to be a chemistry thing, but I just want to say this, a certain percentage of those things, you don't want to ingest or have in your body or whatever, let's say 1%. And you're like, oh, okay, that's cool, because there's only 0.008% in this and this and this, but it's something that is in every single thing. It's in our cereal. It's in our milk. I mean, like, so you're not even drinking cow's milk, and now people turn up their nose if you say it's unpasteurized. Well, at some point in time, we weren't using these systems, right? Okay, anyway, right. So I just before I cut out cheese 100%, I went to non-pasteurized cheese, and I was just fine, right? And I, whatever. But we have all of these things that food coloring. It's probably a good example to use because food coloring is in everything that our kids eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Food coloring, red and yellow are linked to autism. What's a statistic that we have seen in the last 10 years just skyrocket? Autism in children, specifically Black boys, right? Numbers skyrocketing. Where do you, if you look on the back of potato chips, Cheetos, I'll just say it, that orange coloring, all of that, that's from a red and a yellow mix, right? Candies with hard shells, gummies, all that stuff has
Cereal,
that, okay?
Captain Crunch, all these different things.
Polysorbates. I try not to buy stuff with polysorbates. And I realized that the stuff that was in my hair products was in my food. And I was like, so y'all putting gasoline in food? Because that's pretty much what it is, right? And so when you start to add all these things up, and one by itself isn't harmful, but when you add all of them together, aren't we starting to get to, toxic levels, right? So when someone says, are women crazy? And I started, looking at the ingredients in our perm, not to tell anybody you should or shouldn't. This was what I did. This is, how I transitioned. And I started going through the stuff. The first thing, lye by itself. So people start buying no lye perms and stuff like that. And you have to wonder, well, what the hell? And why do we need this? And who created the first press and comb? Because when I got my first perm, it was called press and comb in a jar. So we got away from just straightening our hair for certain events with a hot comb, right, to using a chemical to straighten our hair that was burning our scalp. We know that our skin is the biggest organ in our body. And what if we're putting it on our head? Yeah, you got a skull that, you're hoping can keep things out, but we're literally directly putting things in the closest place to our brain. Not even thinking about it. The chemicals in our lotions and creams, because we want to smell good. We love that fragrant smell, but it's synthetic. There is not a strawberry that you can buy that smells like strawberry fragrance. Like it just doesn't smell like that. Right? Because it's natural. I mean, it tastes like it, but it doesn't have, you know what I'm saying? So people don't realize that real raspberry flavoring, the flavor of raspberry comes from otter's poop.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I stopped eating raspberry. I was like, no, unless the flavoring, like if it said like raspberry filling or something like that, they create and I was just like, why come we can't just use raspberries?
Right.
So anyway, literally like the whole hair thing, I think I know that there's this belief system around hair, and I really would love for us as Black women to be okay wearing our hair, whatever's comfortable. Like I don't have to want to walk around and my hair is all over the place like that. That's not cute to me, but I also don't want to feel like I have to perm my hair. I don't want to feel like I have to do those things to be accepted. And I did it in corporate America, and I wore fake hair a lot. And I was questioned, almost every day. This one girl, she would always ask me about my hair. Oh my God, is that your hair? Yeah, I bought it. I got the receipt. Like,
so it's mine.
And this nuance that people don't realize, that fake hair was actually created for white women because their hair would thin. And so that's why when you go into certain like salons or beauty shops and stuff, they actually have a lot of what we would consider Caucasian women hair. It's not for us. It's for Caucasian women. And a lot of them will tell you, even in different industries, that they use clip-ons and stuff to make their hair look thicker. So we shouldn't feel ashamed if we want to wear fake hair, because a lot of people, now men can get hair pieces, and they can get beards added.
Beards, right?
A whole gamut. But this idea that I have to look a certain way to be accepted, that's that wasn't that long ago. We just got into the industry being allowed to work in television and stuff like that just 50, 30, 40, 50 years ago, probably not even that, where became broadcasters probably in the last 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. And so we know that there are women, Black women who are broadcasters, television broadcasters, who've always had to either wear weave or straighten their hair to be on television. And just recently, we've got women that are like, I just cut my hair all off, or I came into TV. I can't remember what this one lady's name is, but she was big. Everybody was following her and interviewing her. She ended up taking her weave out and came to work with her hair natural. It was really short, natural. And I think, it was like a ghastly kind of thing. And everybody was like, oh my God. And I can't remember if she lost her job. Something happened, but she ended up reporting on it. And that's when we started to realize that we now have laws in the United States that prohibit corporations, employers from discriminating against you because of your hair. But which employer is going to say, yeah, I fired her because of her hair?
No one.
They're not going to say that, right?
No, so, they'll find a problem with the recent project.
That's it, right? You didn't proofread it right? Yep. So I just this belief system that we, going back to this excellence standard, that we have to look a certain way, and just really opening up my arms to us as Black women to say that we are beautiful regardless of how we choose to wear our hair. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that one just and one of the things and how that associates to holding us back is it has the potential to externally hold us, where other people are holding us back, but also keeping us from wanting to live life. How many of us don't get our hair wet?
Right.
God.
So you can't go swimming because you don't want to get your hair wet.
You can't go to the gym.
You can't go to the gym. Right.
Let's talk about health things associated to our hair. We go get our hair done. That hair gotta last. We don't want to sweat it out. What the hell if you got a perm? How do you sweat out a perm? Right? Like, things like that. That would, like, I get it if you're blowing out your hair and it's in a natural state. Because I remember when I did that a few times, and I was like, crap. I work out all the time. I go hiking all the time. My hair is gonna be a poof. Right. Those things, having that belief that my hair has to look a certain way, keeps me from being healthy sometimes. Right? It keeps me from a certain level, a serotonin level of happiness, because now I've spent money and I'm about to just blow the money because I'm going to live my life. Right? So all of these things, we don't think about this stuff on a daily basis, but these beliefs, these rules that we have can be holding us back from achieving the life that we really want.
Right, because who the hell cares if your hair is frizzy? Isn't it supposed to be frizzy? Like, what is your hair supposed to do? Right? It's like asking the impossible from, this shit grows naturally like this out of my head. So when it does its own natural thing, then it's wrong. So I have to go against the naturalness, the nature of what my hair does, so that I can fit in with people who are, at the end of the day, not really paying for my hair to look a certain way. And so how is this benefiting me again?
Right.
And if it's benefiting,
go ahead, say what you will.
I said, and if it's benefiting you, we're not saying don't wear a perm, but do it because you want to do it. But also do it knowing that, okay, these are the results, these are the consequences, this is what I like, and make that decision for yourself, right? Like, don't let anyone tell you you have to look and be and blah and feel a certain way and all these other things to fit in. Because why? Right? It goes back to you continuing to dilute yourself and muting parts of who you are to make other people happy, to make this system that says, oh, you can't look like that.
Yeah.
That's why we have people now going into really, really bleaching our skin and doing all sorts of things to ourselves, because we've been told you have to fit a certain category and that's it. If you don't fit this category, then you won't be successful. We won't pick you. We won't do all these things. And
We
Ali,
won't
it
pick
goes,
you.
we won't pick you. Yeah. It goes back to what we were talking about at the book club in Viola's book, Finding Me, and how she was talking about Hollywood and the industry, right? Where you have to look interchangeable. So we've let a certain kind of look dictate how we're going to live our the whole lives. Like we've said, this is a standard of beauty, and if you don't fit into this category or this standard of beauty, we don't want you, we won't pick you, blah blah, you can't sit at the table. Fucking fine then, I'll go build my own table over here with people that are open, accepting people just as they are, but being told that that is not even an option. You can't build your own table. You can't find your own tribe. You should just take what you're given and be quiet. What does that sound like, Tipsy?
Can we go and debunk this whole table thing? I'm so tired of people and talking about carrying around tables. First of all, I'm going to say this, that I don't think there's any other ethnic group that talks about tables like we do in terms of what a woman needs to bring. Okay, well, I won't go there. I think that's actually on my list too, but I'm not going to even go there right now.
We're not touching on that one.
We could do a whole show on that one. I think we probably need to, because I think I want to actually show some clips of people saying dumbness. Okay. So I did that one. So I'm gonna go here. You better hurry up and find that good man and get married. Okay? And I know, like, if you're a guy and you're watching this, just flip it, you need to find a good woman and all that. But I'm gonna talk about, the pressure that women have to be taken care of, right? And how there's a positive and some negative connotation to this. So going back to this never being wrong and always having to prove yourself and know the answers and all of that. I'm not going to use the two catchphrases, but I'm going to have to. But it takes us out of being more feminine, right? Because now I'm not capable, or not capable, I'm not able in this space to be vulnerable, right? Which a lot of people associate with, the star quality and all of that, which I don't necessarily, I think that there's a balance that you have to have, right? Because if I've got to be a certain way with kids or with a job and different things like that, then I do need some of those strong points in order to be that. But this idea that in order for me to be fulfilled, I have to position myself to be married. And I want to kind of debunk that. I want to debunk this idea that you got to be married to have children. You have to be married to be successful. You have to be married to be happy. If you are married and you're successful, if you're married and you happy, not fake happy and all, that's wonderful. But I would really like for us to get to this point in life where we stop walking around judging people who aren't married. Like when you hear people say, oh, you must be single. Oh, are you married? Or have you ever been married? Like I have people ask me that when I travel too. Oh, you're out here by yourself and stuff. And do you have kids? And I'll say, yes, I have one son. So, were you married? Or I don't know how they ask it, but it's along the lines of, or they'll say something and, oh, you never were married? No. And I understand in some cultures.
That's a big thing. That's we're gonna put you in this category over here.
Yeah, that scarlet letter thing is a real deal. And I want to debunk that. I want to, if that's what you want, you desire that. And I understand that there are systems still in place where you have to follow that's just how it works, right? We got period pieces that show you a lot of those kinds of things, right? But I want to debunk this idea that you can't possibly be happy if you're not married or if you're past a certain point, right? So I've had a child, I'm 50 years old, I'm out here living life non-traditionally, but I'm living the life that I really have always dreamt of living. Um, did I see it with a partner? I don't really know, because I have never really been fond of marriage, because I personally didn't necessarily and still don't necessarily see enough good examples to make me want to do it. And I'm just like, to do it, to do what? To be divorced, to get divorced, to spend more money to get out of it than I put in it to get in it, you know? And so that's unfortunately what I say. And I know a lot of people are like, but Ali, you know, it's not all this, that, and the other. And I go, well, tell married people that. Tell married people it's not that bad. Stop telling me, like, I'm good over here, like, you know. And so there's this whole idea that you're not complete if you're not married, right? And I just want to, it's just not true. Like, I don't believe, and I think what I like to clarify is I love companionship, the idea of a companion. I don't necessarily believe in the idea of marriage, like that I have to be legally government bonded, because that's who you're married to. It's the government. It's the rules that the government sets, puts in place. And that's why there's some states that have common law marriage, where you never really got married, but you've been living. So you get the same benefits. And that's why some people are like, be mindful, you living with people, and like they'll tell guys, they'll be like, yeah, you don't think you got to give anything because you didn't officially marry her, but you're in a common law state, and all she has to do is say, yeah, I am entitled to all of that. Right?
Yeah.
So, because common law trumps, you know, other things. And so my thing is, if common law is a thing and it's legit, and there's no marriage license involved, and the person who you're in common law with, because you can prove that you've lived in the same place for the last 7-10 years or whatever, they get access. If you pass away, they have just as many rights as if there was a marriage license. And somebody please explain to me why marriage in and of itself is a requirement for success and happiness.
Ooh.
We're talking about a system. We're just basically saying, depending on where you live, this is the way that the system wants you to do it. Stop telling me that in order for me to be happy, I have, like, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Like attaching that happiness and fulfillment to marriage.
Yeah.
Or to like the success to marriage, or these things to marriage. Why don't you just tell us in layman's terms, right? You feel a lot better. Your life is so much richer when you're in good, loving relationships, companionship.
That part.
Why don't you just say that? Because they don't want us to be in good, loving,
they want us to be in
healthy relationships. Yeah.
Yep. They want us to have to pay to get in and out of things. And I'm going to tell you something. I do agree. Like, I think one thing that just, I always go, it's a married couple. You know, when you look at these people doing all this, me and my husband, we started this business. Me and my husband finished our 3rd book. Me and my husband, you know, or me and my wife, and I just like, that's great. Can I get an example of solo people doing this? Because there's gotta be some success levels, and there are. I mean, there's tons of us. I mean, look at Oprah, but Oprah isn't necessarily, like, we don't know her status of her life, but she clearly will show she didn't do it by herself. I mean, she had to struggle a lot on her own coming up, but as she started to gain certain friendships and things like that, those became her support. You know, she has these long-term relationships with good friends and whatever you want to call them, because I think Stedman's still around, you know. I think so. You know, he'd be dumb to leave. Hell, I wouldn't leave. Shit, let me be the dog carer. I'll be the dog walker. I'm staying, Oprah. I'm staying. You know what I'm saying? And so to your point, we can have the same thing if we have good, successful relationships. We're not taught to have good, successful relationships. We're taught to get married.
Yeah.
How many women do you hear say, we could say the most recent divorce, Tia and Corey, Tia Mowry
Mm-hmm.
and Corey Hardwick, I believe his last name is. And if you go back and you look at a lot of the old, because of course, you know, they're dredging up 14 years of videos and stuff, where she talked about, you know, all she wanted was to be married and to have a family. Women thinking that you have to be married in order to have a family, like that was a stigma that was put on it. So it was a lot of people that got married and didn't love the person or whatever. And same for men. A lot of men feeling like they had to be married in order to get that woman, and a lot of men wanting purity, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in
Mm-hmm.
order for me to lock that down, I got to marry her, but not really wanting to be married. How many men will literally say that? Like they'll literally come out now at the end or after divorces and things like that, and they'll talk about that. Like, yeah, I never really wanted that, but I knew she did. I knew in order to make her happy. And then we get into this whole thing around where we talk about um, what's the word that starts with the C? Um, Compromise.
Mm. Ooh. The compromise conversation.
Compromising. Well, you know, you got to be willing to compromise. Yeah, and everything I mean, we're compromising on some level every day. There's some sort of compromise, right? But at what level are we compromising, or are we just completely defying what we want because the rule says this is what it's supposed to look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Mm-hmm.
lived in a religious household, and you know, marriage, or not marriage, I'm sorry, sex before marriage is frowned upon. So imagine having a child and still not being married. I can't even lie my way out of this one. You know, I tried to say, you know, the Lord gave me that child, you know, and they like,
Baby Jesus.
because I'm like, but that's how that we're gonna say that's how he got here. That's what we saying. And if marriage is so important, and it's God's word, not the word in that book, man-made religion's word and all of that, why was Jesus never married? And anybody can answer that. Explain to me why in the book that we hold so dear, 66 chapters, they never ever talked about him being in companionship. But he made Adam and Eve. But Jesus himself wasn't.
Mm.
But God says that we have to get married though, right? Okay. All right, let's move on.
We just parked the car there and it's getting deserted. So go ahead and comment and throw in some points, y'all. We
Please.
do want to hear. We do want to hear because everything that we're talking about our lives, right? Our opinions, the things that we've learned, the things that we've found as truth for us. So go ahead and tell us your side of the story, your perspective. Mm-hmm.
The idea that somebody used to tell me I bounce around, and you keep bouncing around, you'll never have a family, or you'll never get married, or and that kind of thing. Um, and I was like, but that might be your end result, not necessarily mine. So me moving around or exploring other countries, that might be my happy. And then people really, I remember having a conversation with a guy, and he was just befuddled. So he's like, well, so what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Like, what are you going to do when you're ready to settle down? Then I'll settle down. So you telling me that like because what if my settling down or my moving around actually presents me with the person I'm supposed to be with?
Mm-hmm.
And we have this like, it's just, it blows my mind the you know, that the world is round, but we literally function like we got four corners. I mean, the world is round. There's so many parts of it. There's so much to see, and to limit ourselves to the only things that we know. Because a lot of times, what do? We covet what we see. We want what we allow ourselves to you know, kind of our normal walk. We the things that we see and do every day become the things that we desire, right?
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
why commercials are important. That's why rap videos are steering our communities the way that they are. That's why, news is news the way news is, and all these other things. But imagine saying, okay, there's got to be something else. I know holistically, like people are people. Pretty much everywhere you go, people are people.
Right.
But if I have this belief that there is a companion out there for each and every one of us, there's a friendship out there for each and every one of us. Um, why do should I feel limited in that it has to come from um, the space that I was born? That means like I can never move, I can never leave. I can, it's like it's this compounded mind screw. And I
Mhm.
don't understand it. I don't understand this whole idea that you can't find happiness if you don't sit still.
Right. Unless you do one, two, three things, then you can't find happiness. I mean, the last time I checked, we're all different people. So what makes you think that your version of happiness should be my version of happiness? And if it's not my version of happiness, I'm doing something wrong. I feel like a lot of this comes from just misplaced judgments. And you look at someone and I feel like the people that have the most to say, why are you so bothered about the way I live my life? Could it be that you don't like the way that you're living your life, and how I'm living it is showing you a certain place that you really don't jive with, but instead of looking at it, you want to project that anger, that jealousy, and that judgment towards me, when at the end of the day, the relationships that we have with everything and everyone around us is just a mere relationship of our own relationship with ourselves.
Hmm. Or like going
So,
back to your very first question around, afraid to ask questions around beliefs and different things. Maybe they're judging because they're sitting and going, well, hell, ain't nobody tell me I can do that.
okay, so I can do that too.
I
I
could have.
can do that too.
I'm
And it's like,
stuck now,
yeah,
though. I'm stuck. I don't
yeah,
know
I'm
how.
stuck.
So now
I
I'm
can't
angry.
do it. Yeah,
I'm angry that you're
at
doing,
you.
that you stepped out. I'm angry at you
Yeah.
because what the hell? What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, what the hell? Now instead of looking at it and saying, and this is a process too, right? It's not like you're just this perfect being that just doesn't feel all these emotions, and I will talk about that, which is my point of getting in touch with your emotions. Looking at yourself and saying, "Yo, I feel jealous. I feel a little bit triggered. There's something about this that is really, really bothering me. Why is it bothering me? Is it bothering me because I thought I didn't have an option and yet they have an option?" And then another layer is that, okay, so what does that say about me? You can make it say whatever the hell you want it to say about you. It can just mean, well, maybe I wasn't there yet. Or it can mean, oh, now I'm gonna hate them because I can't do it. Like there's like two different ways and two different perspectives of looking at these things, but really just looking at those emotions, and saying, maybe this is just a signal. Maybe that jealousy is a signal saying there's something in my life that I'm missing that I would like to have. Okay, what am I going to do about it?
Right.
Okay, what am I going to do about it? Right? And having agency and saying, I have agency as to what I choose to do over my behaviors, and no one can make me feel any type of way. Because at the end of the day, okay, whatever it is that they make me feel, it's just a signal that there's something else going on with me.
What do
Right?
they tell you? They tell you about like if you're triggered with certain things, it's not doesn't mean that you necessarily do those same things, but there's something within you that's unrested, it's unsettled. Like when
Mm-hmm.
you're, and I'm not talking about if somebody walk up and slap you, you triggered. I ain't talking about that. Slap them back. Slap them. I mean, unless it's your mom, slap your mom back. But you know what I'm saying? But like
Yes.
we have these things that are in there and they start to bubble and a lot of times we don't know what it is. We don't know what to do with it. We just know that didn't feel right. And we don't want to go in and possibly address what the feeling was, emotion,
Yeah,
what that emotion
what
was.
it was. Because have we been taught about emotions? No. We've been told what you're crying for. Big boys don't cry. Don't be a
Oh,
girl.
I
Oh,
hate it.
which
Yeah.
okay, so I'm not human, so we don't even have the tools and the resources to look at these emotions or to even say this is an emotion. How many of us don't even know that this is an emotion? You just know there's just something happening and you don't even know what it is.
Right.
And for a lot of people, it's like the emotional spectrum is two things. I'm either mad or I'm happy. There's nothing in between. And it's so limited, and we don't talk about it because you're not supposed to have emotions. Why? Aren't you human? Or is it having emotions the full spectrum of this human life? But when you don't identify your emotions, when you're not aware of your emotions, then you're not aware of yourself.
Right.
You don't know what's going on inside, right? And so when you don't know what's going inside, you just allow anything that comes in to just come in. It just gets to come in and it gets to define you and it gets to do all the things. And I'm going to go back to the question that I always ask. Who is benefiting from you not being aligned with yourself, not knowing yourself, not knowing what's going on in your mind, not knowing maybe this trigger is tied to something in my childhood or something that happened to me, right? Eh, honey,
So, so do you think that there is like this system in place that is designed for us to not be in touch with our emotions because it does benefit something external, right? So, because if I'm not in touch, I don't know what I want.
yes. And if I don't know what I want, you can tell me what I want and I will happily go get it
Right.
over and over and over again.
I won't push back.
Push
I
back,
won't
question
question
it.
it.
Yes.
Now, maybe later on in life I might, but at this point now I got to work myself out of it. I don't
Yeah.
even, you know what I mean? And I think many of us naturally have a little, tingle or something like,
Mm,
even as kids,
yeah.
and a lot of times more so as kids, because kids are so raw. Kids, what the hell? I ain't doing that.
Because they know, right? Like they haven't been taught to go against that. They haven't
Yes.
been taught to go against their intuition. They haven't been taught to go against their seat of power. They're like, that does not look right. And then
My granddaughter, she's only 8 months, 8 or 9 months old, and
uh-huh,
her whole face in the beginning, I used to have to say she had what we call that bee resting face. Like
uh-huh.
she literally she would not be amused at all. Like
She came into the world and she was like, this is Earth? This is what y'all are doing?
and I asked my kids, I said, what's wrong with her? They said that's how she always looked. And I mean, but it's so funny because when I got to, spend a week with them, and she would just be playing. I mean, she's so expressive. And they were like, I think she's a lot like me because I have very expressive facial expressions. And
Mhm.
she does that. And there'll be just time where, I mean, she literally just like, what the hell, And so when we take that away, our systems, let's I'm gonna use the word individuality.
Yes.
We are told over and over. Okay, so let me rephrase this. We are told over and over again to be okay being yourself, to be individual, to be this, to be that. But the systems that are in place directly defy that.
Hmm.
Everything that is in place says no, you can't be an individual, you can't be yourself, you can't think for yourself, you can't question that. I even when I raised my son, like these are things that I would go back and do different because I said so. Now sometimes because I said so. Listen, I'm gonna explain it to you. We started doing family forums and stuff like that because I also understood like his start when I started learning his personality. I realized that it wasn't beneficial for him to just accept what his mom told him. Yeah, you need to do what I'm asking you to do, and we're gonna have to sit down and talk about it. So just even teaching him how to speak up for himself respectfully, because that's one other thing we don't do in our household. We're not doing all that crazy stuff that they'd be saying. I'm like, I used to tell my son, I understand you go to school with a whole bunch of different people, but what they do in their house, don't think you can come and do that here. We can sit and have a conversation about it, but I'm gonna tell you what you ain't gonna do. Right. So we still had that. Like, I think that's just Black family. I mean, that's just something that you see in our households. Like, we not, I mean, sometimes, there's levels to it and stuff like that. But I think we take away individuality, which then also feeds into taking away emotions, like the feeling okay to express my emotions. Like, I'm afraid to tell you how I feel. Because I know you ain't gonna like it. I know it doesn't match up. Like, I watch you every day. Even though you tell me I won't be mad, I won't be this, yes, you are. I don't want to go to church. I don't want to do the dishes. I don't want to study. I don't want to be, great. There's some days where why can't I remember I used to hate my brother because they had accepted the fact that he figured out how not to do stuff, how not to be asked to do stuff. And I was so pissed off, and we laughed at it as we got older and stuff. And I was like, man, I hated you but here's me, I'm just do it because I hated he listening to the fussing and all that, just do it. And he would mess it up so much that they wouldn't ask him. So he never had to clean the bathroom because he would just do his poor job. Not because he couldn't clean the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
So he learned how to be creative in it and try not to lose who he was in that. And that also backfired in many ways because people didn't understand it. We don't understand creativity. We don't understand, there's ways to do things. You could be a person who badmouths, or, like we look at people like Trump and Kanye, right? People call them spoiled. People call them all this, that, and the other. And the problem is they just run their mouths not in the best times and in the best situations, right? If anybody else was saying some of the things that they say, we would accept it. Sometimes it's the
that's
package.
An interesting one.
Yeah, imagine if instead of Trump saying the things that he says because we just consider him a buffoon, if Obama said some of the stuff. And what I'm talking about the things where he started, kind of telling on the system and how the system works and being defiant. And I ain't showing you my tax stuff. And then us finding out that they don't have to. They actually don't have to. There's no requirement that they have to. So is it wrong that he doesn't want to? Or the fact that he said he don't want to pay taxes. Who the hell does? You got people like Warren Buffett making millions and billions and billions and trillions of dollars saying, tax me more. And people are like, well, just pay more in taxes. He said, I can't. Our system doesn't allow for me to just pay more in taxes.
Right.
It doesn't allow it. Now, the flip side of that is he has the appropriate people in place that puts his money in places that he doesn't have to pay taxes. Because if he just did it like a regular person and put on his books that his income is $300 billion a year, he gonna pay that high tax, right? Eventually. But why do we give tax breaks, right? So he's following the law. But you don't know that because everybody before him hid it. You just fall in line. You just do this and that. And basically what he did is he doesn't necessarily fall in line. He's an idiot, but we learned a lot. We learned a whole, if we sit back and pay attention, the biggest issue is he run his mouth. So I tell people all the time, sit back and just listen. He's going to tell you where to invest.
He going to tell you to trade. Yeah, he really will tell you a lot of things. He's telling on himself. He's telling everybody all the things. Yeah.
He telling on everybody. That's what they're afraid of. They're not afraid of what he telling on him as it relates to himself. People are afraid of what he knows, because keep in mind the company that he has kept for the last 40 years. He been with every politician that we think is so great. He got footage, they got photos, they got videos.
Mm-hmm.
So they are afraid because he knows every little secret. He knows everything. And people are just like, shut up. Shut up.
Right. And he's been in it for a long time. His father was in it for the longest time. I mean, like, this has been generations upon generations upon generations of stuff.
He's just arrogant. He's very arrogant, very cocky, and he does not know how to zip it. You know what I'm saying? And you got the same thing with Kanye.
And he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to either. He's not the kind of person. I mean, he wasn't created. I remember reading or listening to his book called Not Enough, something but not enough. But it's a book by his niece. And I remember listening to it. And she was saying the way that he was created, the way that he was brought up, this is an amalgamation of what his father wanted to create.
Yep. Yep.
And they let him. There's no way that now you're going to tell him, now that you're whatever many years, oh, you can't do that. He's like, what? I've been doing this my whole life, and it was okay to do it. Who are you to say that I can't? With you.
He got receipts. That's the issue. He has receipts. But I mean, I sit back and I'm just like, but he was y'all's friend, and he's been this person. He's always been this cocky. I mean, the way I've never been a fan. I've never been a fan, so I don't like him. But I sit and I go, listen to what he's saying, though, y'all. Listen to the stuff he says. Listen to how he talks about the systems in place. I mean, even when he talks about, make America great again, or because it never was, but for some people it was. So we have to listen to him. He ain't talking about for everybody. He never has. It's never been about everybody. And this is what I like. It blows my mind. I'm like, y'all, we're so caught in these these rule books, and I've got to follow this, and if it doesn't look like this, and I go, yeah, but you know how much you can learn from a homeless man? We don't want to listen to that fool. And how many people say, why are you listening to single people? I'm telling you about relationships, because married people want to be single.
Yo, and oh my gosh, Ali, I think it comes to this belief that we have to agree with what people are saying for it to be truth. Like, it can't be like, I hate you, I don't like you, I think you're a piece of trash, but there's some things that you're saying that I'm like, like, we can learn from people we agree with and people that we don't agree with.
Right.
There's
a benefit to having opposing views in your circle. Yes. There's a benefit. And it was funny because I was writing some of this stuff and I was thinking about, like, when we were talking about when we did the dating thing and we were talking about fetishes, and I had some things, and I was just like, I know we may not necessarily agree on all of these points and things like that. And it's because of the perspective that we look at things. But who wants to be in a space? How do you grow with no opposition?
You don't.
Right? Like, we can, it's great to have people that are rallying behind you, but you got to have somebody that says, yeah, but you do know that if you go and buy such and such, you're wanting a sustainable business company or whatever, but if you go and you buy this brand and you buy that in bulk, you do realize that they actually use this particular ingredient that's not natural and it's not biodegradable, and so you need somebody to push back and go, hey, but did you check? Did you and not feel like this, you're always coming at me. What do we always say when somebody's questions us? You never support me, you never this, you never.
That's not what it's about. Like, can we as human beings look at something and look at it with all its neutrality and say, whether I agree with it or I disagree with it, maybe I don't have to identify with it. Maybe I don't have to get my emotions and to feel all types of way about it because I want someone that agrees with me only. What
Right.
does that agreement, what is that you being comfortable with someone agreeing with you? What does that buy you? What is it about you that wants to, just always be surrounded by people that say that you're great and you're awesome and woohoo you?
Right.
And can we be
Ooh.
okay with people not liking us, not liking our decisions, not liking our behaviors, having opposing viewpoints? Can we still respect them and respect ourselves?
Right. And at the end of the day, can we do those things and still continue down the path of achieving the life that we dream of, right?
Yeah.
Because a
Yeah.
lot of the things that we fight against, uh, I shouldn't say a lot. Some of the things that we fight against, that we push back on, are the very things that would open up the doors for the things that we want, right? But
Mhm.
we've been programmed so much that that can't be the way. That's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
That we shy away from it, or or we just simply say, I hear so often, it just wasn't meant for me to do it. This was the life that God had for me. Maybe. I mean, you said it. So maybe it was, maybe it
Mhm.
is. And one
Mhm.
of the things that I have learned to accept, I was talking to some friends last night about this, is accepting the idea that what somebody believes about themselves is true.
Yes.
Because I can't believe for you.
Yeah.
I can't believe for the happiness you say you want if you don't believe in it. And I had to
Yeah.
learn that, because one of my things on my list is this idea that we got to carry people. This
Mm.
idea that if we see the good in somebody, we got to make sure they get there.
Ooh, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. I'm like bookmarking that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Why? Doesn't everyone have total and complete agency over their own lives? Or is it this enmeshment where we don't know where you end, we don't know where I end, and so now I'm carrying you and you're carrying me, and that's called love? Or is it us wanting so much to be liked, wanting so much and having our identity wrapped up in our worthiness and what we can do for other people, that
Ooh.
without it, we don't even know who we are? So you're doing all the things for them, but you resent them and you resent yourself in the process because you really don't want to do it anyway, but you're trapped because you're supposed.
So we talking about this cup again, this cup runneth over. So not realizing that the cup that you have in front of you with your coffee in it is your cup of coffee.
Yes.
But when you pour extra into that cup and it spills over, that extra coffee is for somebody else. Hopefully, you got a
Hmm.
cup underneath it to catch it. That running over is the overflow. It's the what other people can catch of you. It's the greatness that you have. Um,
Yes. What's in it is yours. And
yes.
also, can we talk about this idea that individuality takes away from community? Because I'm a firm believer that the better we are as individuals, the more we love ourselves as individuals, the more we respect ourselves, isn't that better for creating a better community of individuals? Because you're never going to have community without individuals. So now you're creating a community of individuals that love themselves, respect themselves, which means they will love and respect the other person, which means we're creating a beautiful community. So when did it become that if I am more in love with myself, it's taken away from the community or taken away from the other person? Isn't that just scarcity-based beliefs that there's not more from where it came from?
Right.
But you
Yeah.
know?
Right. And all of those things do not get us where we need to go. Although people will tell us that. People will what's the crabs in a bucket, crabs in a
Oh, the
barrel?
crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So because you're functioning off of scarcity, so you ain't helping,
Totally.
instead of uplifting it, and there's levels to it. So we're not talking about standing and never moving yourself and always pulling other people up and not yourself. you got to do for yourself first, right? And so we have this idea that if we don't do it, if we don't grab it, it's not going to be there. And that's how we end up in negative situations a lot.
Yeah.
Is, we jump the gun.
Yeah.
We were so determined to get it and be in it, and to, like you hear men say this when it comes to dating. I wasn't about to let this one go. Wasn't ready. Wasn't ready to be in a situation or anything. And what do? You get in these things, and then you expect people to wait for you to get it together. That's not fair.
Ooh, prematurely. You get into it prematurely because you have this belief that there's not more from where it came from.
Right.
Or for women, at least they offered. So I'm just supposed to take it because at least they offered. Excuse me, like in this time and space dimension, in this beautiful lifetime of mine, I'm just supposed to take it because someone offered? How about no? How about no, thank you? How about, well, that's not what I wanted, right? Because for a lot of us, it really isn't what we wanted, but it's like, well, at least it's there. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like this done for me. So I might as well hold on to it, because when is the next time it's going to come by? Y'all better stop with this scarcity behavior, honey. Stop it.
And the scarcity behavior is what keeps us from living this kind of life that you and I are living, right? Mm-hmm. Because we have this belief that whole saying of what's meant for you will come or will be. You don't necessarily have to force anything. And I think being in for me, staying in the US was forcing. I was forcing it. And I can tell I was forcing it because my body reacted to it. I could tell I was forcing it because I was always stressed. I wasn't necessarily in a happy place. And I knew that I could actually function outside of it and have some peace and some stability. But if I stay and try to follow these rules and all these other things, then what does not necessarily fit who I am. So if I know this is the life I live, this nomadic move around life, but I settle for, let's just talk about a relationship, but I settle for someone who is, back there, who doesn't have this desire, but because they offered, they came up, and at my age, which I don't understand why people think is old, but anyway,
right, never gonna get anything better.
I'm like, there's a whole world out here, y'all. It's a whole new world. It's like, and so I feel like, gosh, it's a terrifying thought that there are people in the world who will never experience greatness. Their expected greatness, their designed greatness, because they're afraid to step out on faith.
That is so sad, even to hear, to think about. That is so sad.
Yeah. Can you
because
imagine?
The world truly is beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, like, just to think about, like, there's so many things in my head right now, just to think about settling. And we all settle in some respect for things, like, but when it comes to relationships, I wonder why we were expected to settle for a relationship. And that's because people think that in this round world that we have the square box. But we're out here proving that you don't have to accept something that doesn't meet your most basic wants. Right?
Yes.
And we're not talking about physical stuff, because you can be physical with anybody. Yes. Physicality doesn't, okay. And I'm saying within reason, I'm just talking about the physical part. I'm not talking about the emotional attachment of it and it being, good or anything. I'm just saying it's just physically, if it's just physical desire, you can do that with anybody, right?
Right.
But when we start talking about fulfillment and we talk about good relationships, how do you have a good relationship when you're not being honest? So oftentimes when we see people get married, go into priesthood, or all of these different things, and then they find out later that they come out and they're part of the LGBTQ community and stuff, and they're so happy to be out and to be able to say it, and people go, but were you lying to your wife, to your husband all this time, to you had kids, why did you do that? Well, because I didn't know, or I kind of thought that there was something, but I wasn't quite sure, or I wanted to push away from it because I didn't want to have those feelings, or because that's not what we're allowed to do. I'm not so that's that suppressing individuality and stuff. And I use that as an example because that's almost to me one of the most harsh, because it's like you literally created people.
Yeah.
And you were with someone in a space and lying. Imagine being the other person to find out that they don't even like you, would hope, but they just did it because system said that they had to, family said, religion said, and imagine all those people who are even still living in this space and can't be free. I don't judge people, do what you do, what you want to do, and all, or what you feel is right for you. But when we suppress it and then we bring other people down as a part of us living in a rule, because of a rule, because of something that somebody told us we had to do, now we're involving other people in our lunacy. Like that, I just, like, to me, that's just like the worst. So that's okay. It's okay for me to lie to myself and bring other people into it and ruin their lives.
For the benefit of what standard? For the benefit of what standard, right? Because on the outside, it might look delicious, parent household with, heterosexual household with 2 children and the cars and the garage and the blah, blah, blah. But on the inside, like, is it crumbling? Is it a toxic relationship? Like, are your kids witnessing you being really not truthfully and authentic who you are? What message is that sending? Like, there's so much that we do to cover up, layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of covering up who we really are, that I'm starting to see how unnecessary it is. But if that's what you've been told is the norm and is the standard, and again, going back to there's no option, when truthfully, there are options. It's just very uncomfortable and it might be quite a lonely journey. But wouldn't you rather have a little bit of a lonely journey for a bit until you start allowing the people that really truly see you and love you for who you are, than being trapped in a box for the rest of your life and then continuing to just add on to things to just cover and cover and cover? And by the end of it, you don't even know who you are.
And you're miserable.
You don't even like yourself. And you're miserable.
You're miserable.
For who? Because I bet you, if you're miserable with yourself, you're not going to be happy with other people. And then just is going to spew. Yeah. I mean,
what happens? Then other people, they start to see it, especially our kids. Our kids see it. Our kids are miserable because we're miserable. They just want us to be happy. It's just this long. It's all of these things they're so important to recognize, right? All the little things that we tell ourselves to get along, to be at peace with, whatever, regiment, rule, people, whatever, all of these things. And yet, while this is happening, we're teaching ourselves that we are not important to ourselves.
Yes.
One isn't important because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you want to, sail around the world or, go to all these different places and meet all these. It doesn't matter. That's what you want. That's not what we do. So like in the show that everybody loves, Bridgerton, one of my favorites, which is a timepiece that literally talks about women's sole purpose is to want to be married. Right. That's the
Married.
whole point
To
of
be,
that. So
yeah.
I hate that part. I hate that part. What did they do in season 2 or 3 or whichever season it is? The one that just came out this year, right? So not only did they bring in more people of color, like we up in there, we in that deep. They showing royalty and all this stuff, right? Not only did they do that, but they also even with kind of Daphne's character with Sexy Man. What's his real name?
Mm-hmm.
The Duke.
I have
What's the
no
Duke's
idea.
real name?
The
Claude
Duke.
or whatever. Yeah, Jean something.
Jean. We'll call him Jean.
Let me just tell you, I'm gonna get off track. When that first season came out, I was like, I will rob a cradle up in this joint. I know that boy ain't nothing but 22, but I will literally, I was like, yes. Lord, I was like, y'all best bring him back. I don't know what happened, but you better find out how to bring him back. Like Henry Cavill.
Right, they didn't bring him back this last time.
Right.
Was he there?
I think something going on. He wasn't in it. The baby was. Their baby was in it.
Oh yeah, their baby was in it.
Yeah, because she came back. Daphne came back in this last one because it was about Anthony, and so there's supposed to be the book that it's supposed to follow the like a storyline of each sibling, basically. So I think the next one is going to be about the sister.
Oh, okay.
The one who doesn't want.
The one who colors outside the box.
Yeah. Yeah. I love her.
Can you imagine living in those times?
Oh my God. First of all,
I wouldn't have survived.
The corset.
Like corset.
I haven't eaten all day, so I think I'm probably thinking about food, right? But that whole all of those different things, playing into it, and they literally are breaking down systems and beliefs right on that show, right? And it's one of the reasons why I love it because I was like, I want to see where they go with this. Because the first season I was a little upset because I was like, why they have to be stereotypical? I was like, why the black boy had to be the one with the abusive father, and why the only black girl on the show had to be the one that got pregnant by somebody. I was just like, really, Sandra? That's what we doing? Chandra, that's what we doing? And so when they came out with so I mean, I enjoy it, but the reason why I watch a lot of that stuff is because it's actually real. It's actually art emulating life. Because this is how it was and how so much of it still lingers in today in the society and the way that we think, the way that we present, how men present themselves to women, how women feel they need to present themselves to men. When we start talking about tables, nowhere in period times did women ever have to think about bringing a table, except like a dowry in some places but that was the family. The family had to pay. It wasn't, so that whole, I guess that's what she bringing to the table concept or whatever. But you don't really see that outside of like this Western mindset, like mainly in the US, like even outside of Black communities. You don't really see anybody else talking about what a woman needs to bring to a table. And I wonder if that's twofold. So it's more of these beliefs. If it's twofold, it's because we're raised different. If it's because Black women excellence as over the last 20 years, put us in a place of, where we're leveling up. So now we got stuff to bring to the table. And so now there's like this flip of this societal and just the way that we've flipped, and is society flipping these roles where now, our men, so to speak, think that, well, because you've gone to college, you've got the degrees, you've got the good job, so bring something to the table, court me, so that's another show. We'll get into that on another show.
I'm putting that one down, bookmark.
Yeah, because I feel like these are things that truly hold us back. So, all right, we are at 4:46 p.m. We are at our 2.5 hour mark. I think that's what's happening with us, is this 2.5 hour mark.
I think so too.
And I think it's because the topic is great. And I'm going to say I have 31 things. I think I did 6. So you guys, I'm going to tell you guys, I might do a midweek show and just literally read through what these are. And then if people want to comment, I might even I may just explain what I mean, but I literally think I'm just going to list all these out. This is the follow up. These are some of the beliefs
I
that,
like that.
these are some of the things that we're doing every day, because I think all the stuff that we talked about literally plays into this final stage. And I'm not saying everybody's final dream has to be to leave the United States or whatever country they're from, or leave their job. That doesn't have to be everybody's dream. But I think that what we do have in common is that these things can stifle our dreams,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're
Mm-hmm.
stuck in living this certain way, and I got to be a certain, and I'm programmed to be okay with giving up on what I want, because it doesn't match, it doesn't fit, it's, all of these different things. And I would love for there to be a support system for this kind of conversation, this talk, that you're not going to hell because you are changing the rules.
Yeah,
You know?
right. Yeah.
I had a child out of wedlock. If I'm going to hell, then I'm going to hell. I'm already going. If because of that, I'm not a winner, then I might as well go on and live the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying?
And go guns a blazing.
I might as well, because at this point, you telling me I've already sinned and all of this thing. So
Yeah.
that's a whole nother one. That whole idea of sin. What is sin? This idea of being born into something that you did not pick and choose. So you're born into sin to spend the rest of your life working to prove that you're not sinful.
Mm-hmm.
Who does that? Anyway,
what kind of God? The God that loves us so much. He's not that cruel.
he can't be.
Mm-mm.
Right. Why do we believe these things? Anyway, y'all. So if you guys enjoy this, like Joy said, and are getting something out of this, and this is you are sitting back and saying, there's something that I want to do, or I have this dream. I don't think anybody's going to support me, or, people aren't going to believe, people are going to laugh at me. As kids, we grew up, this whole, people are going to laugh at you because you're doing something different and all this, or you're the different one. And now we call it bullying and all this kind of stuff. And if you're that person, jump in this circle. Jump in this live circle where we are literally breaking down the walls, the bricks. We're breaking these chains off that says we can't.
Yeah.
We can't, and we can't do it. And you definitely ain't happy while you're doing it. Let's break these chains, okay? So that more of us can get out here, so that we do create a real community of people who are doing this. It's still brand new, I feel like, in the Black woman community. It's something that I think we're just embarking on recently, because as we move around, we find people who have been doing it that don't look like us, have been doing it for the last 20, 30, 40 years.
What do you know that I don't know?
How you get here?
This was possible? Like back in the day? Wow.
You say what?
Yeah.
What? And so that's what we're here. We're breaking barriers. We are breaking down, debunking rules and laws and belief systems that says you can't be authentically you.
What you were created to be. Like you were literally created to be you.
But all your life, you was told.
All my life.
You is being told that you is not smart, you is not beautiful, and you is not kind. All your life, because it don't match up. And this conversation is so deep in my soul, it's so deep in my spirit, because it could be the thing. I see it so much, the unhappiness of people not living their lives.
Yeah.
Not living their lives. And so if we can be on here and share some things with you guys that help set you free, then please
Okay.
click that like button, click that subscribe button on both of our pages. You guys actually will see that. Thank you, Sandra. Sandra says she has subscribed. She loves the conversation. For people who are watching this after the fact on any of our respective platforms, Joy has posted this on, is this on your unapologetic page on Facebook, Joy?
It's on my profile on Facebook. It's
Okay, so
not
your
on the
regular
group.
page.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on my regular page and the Soul Kitchen brand page.
Okay. And then so
Mhm.
on YouTube, and then it's on my YouTube. So you guys can
Mhm.
rewatch this later on, subscribe to us, and then jump in the conversation. So as you're watching this later, let us know what you think. Throw in some of your thoughts and ideas, because we literally, again, we had a whole plan to read through all these. We did. We really did. That was literally how this was structured for today. But I mean, this was really good. I didn't expect um, for some of these points to come out and hit home. Like, wow, yeah, this is real life, you guys. And so if you really want your piece of the pie, one of those little cliche sayings that we hear all the time, first of all, identify what your pie is. You don't have to have apple pie if you don't want apple pie.
Okay.
If you like
Yes.
blueberry, then wait until either make your own blueberry, since we still want to bring a table, make your own blueberry pie and cut your own slice, but don't sit here and accept a piece of pie that you don't want,
Yeah. For it to make you sick because you don't want it.
because you
Why?
don't want it, you know or learn the balance. You got to do certain things sometimes to get where you got to go. I get it, but just make sure you don't forget it is you ultimately, where you were heading in the first place. Don't
Yeah.
forget where you were heading in the first place. Don't get derailed. Don't get sidetracked. Can't nobody come and tell me that I'm supposed to be married. Can't nobody come and tell me that I'm supposed to have more children. They do it all the time. No, they do. Wally, you could ask who you should. I get it all the time. I get it all the time, especially when I was in Africa. I swear to God, I got proposed to like every day. I got in a tuk-tuk every day. Every day. I mean, it was a couple. I told you before, I was like, man, I'm considering second wife ship. Second wifehood.
Second wifeship. Yes.
Yeah, whatever you call
Sister
it.
wives.
I
Sister wives.
listen. She might not even know that she was in the running for it. But I was like, boo, hey, boo, hey, boo, hey. But like, those are things like people can't derail me with those things. But I have been derailed with so many other things. Last thing, it's a quote, but I can't remember exactly how it goes, and it's something along the lines of, just because and I think it's actually on my YouTube, just because something looks good or has the potential to be amazing doesn't mean that you have to be a part of it. So like, because what I would do in the past is I oh my God, that's amazing, that's amazing. If it's not your path, you don't have to join it. You don't have to do it. You don't have to be a part of it, because it's derailing you from where you are, your purpose, what it is that you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. So, we've got to start with finding ourselves. And that's how you started this whole conversation today, with questioning enough to start to be able to even understand what it is that you want.
Yeah.
Ask enough questions to even understand. Do I even like, so maybe I don't like bomb pops. Maybe I like push-ups.
Right.
Maybe I like the sorbet over, red, white, and blue pops. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, we don't even know. We don't even know. And so I appreciate that whole beginning of question it. Because ultimately what we're doing is we're questioning what we're doing.
Right.
I'll say, I like this, but do I really? So why do I like it? We ask, people hate when they say, tell me why you like me. I used to get thrown off when people would say, tell me what you're looking for in a man. And because I would change where my mind was, I got to a point where it was a difficult question for me to answer because I was like, well, I'm kind of toggling between this and that. And it's like, get rid of this long list. And ultimately, the bottom line is someone who is in the same, going down the same path that I'm going, someone that matches my future. Now, if you want to ask me what my future is, that's cool, but it doesn't necessarily look like a particular thing anymore. Right?
Mm.
Okay, it do. I don't need to list those things out because I ain't gonna be attracted to it, right? So yeah, so let's do that. Let's ask questions.
Get curious, guys. Get curious.
Let's find ourselves.
Curiosity did not kill the cat.
It did not.
Yeah, tell them stop listening to that mess. Get curious, because when you don't know what you don't know, and if you're not okay with it, go find out. Find out why you're not okay with it, and then find out what are you okay with. What lights your soul up? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel aligned and not shitty? Life is way too short for you to be living miserable because somebody said you're supposed to live like that. Come on. Please love and respect and honor the sacredness that is your life here on earth right now.
Because this is heaven and hell. If y'all think it's something afterwards, it's probably not. I'm just going to put it out there for you. I'm sorry to be the one to break those.
You're ending with the big ones, Ali. You're ending with the big booms.
That's the big one. You either in heaven or hell right now. Live it. So you want to be in heaven, act like you in heaven. Get rid of all the things that don't serve you in your heaven ship. All right. Okay, y'all, let's get out of here. You guys know where to find us. Subscribe, like, and share. You guys know the drill. We're out of here. Toodles and noodles. Peace and hair grease.
Bye.